So we're just going to start off with a comprehension, and this poem is called The Emigre. I'm just going to read it out loud and highlight/circle any important words or phrases. There once was a country. I left it as a child, but my memory of it is sunlight clear. For it seems I never saw it in that November, which I'm told comes to the mildest city. The worst news I receive of it cannot break my original view, the bright filled paperweight. It may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants, but I am branded by an impression of sunlight. The white streets of that city, the graceful slopes, glow even clearer as time rolls its tanks, and the frontiers rise between us, close like waves. That child's vocabulary I carried here, like a hollow doll, opens and spills a grammar. Soon I shall have every coloured molecule of it. It may by now be a lie, banned by the state, but I can't get it off my tongue. It tastes of sunlight. I have no passport, there's no way back at all, but my city comes to me in its own white plane. It lies down in front of me, docile as paper. I comb its hair and love its shining eyes. My city takes me dancing through the city of walls. They accuse me of absence, they circle me. They accuse me of being dark in their free city. My city hides behind me. They mutter death, and my shadow falls as evidence of sunlight. So we're going to get started with the first question. What is the meaning of sunlight clear in the context of the poem? So sunlight, the word sunlight was repeated many, many times. As you can see, I've highlighted it. So what is the meaning of sunlight clear? So sunlight clear, obviously, has connotations of brightness, positivity, and just vivid, being vivid. You know, you can look through it, it's clear. So its answer is definitely not going to be blurry or indistinct, which is option A, because blurry is the opposite of being clear. We've got bright and vivid, which could be an option, so we're not going to eliminate that one just yet. Option number C is dark and obscure. Again, it can't be C because sunlight clear means you can see through it, and obscure means to hide something. And option number D is cold and harsh. Again, sunlight connotates to warmth, so it's definitely not going to be cold and harsh. When you think of the sun, you think of hotness and warmth, so it's not going to be D. And the last option is E, warm and comforting. It could be E. Now we have to choose between B and E. Which option answers the question the best? We've got bright and vivid or warm and comforting. I personally think I would go for B here in this situation because the bright links to the sunlight and the vivid links to the clear, because vivid means something is clear and bright is a synonym for sunlight and things being bright and airy, whereas in option E there is no word which is similar to comforting in the phrase sunlight clear. The next question. What does the phrase original view, the bright filled paperweight, suggest about the speaker's memories of their country? So, first thing I'd pick apart is the word paperweight. What does this suggest? Well, paperweight is something heavy, something which holds something in place, something strong. So, again, it suggests that the memories of the speaker are quite strong. She still remembers them. And original view, the bright, again, the memories are clear, they're positive. So, option number A, they are fragile and easily broken, cannot be the answer because a paperweight is something that's strong, therefore, the memories are not fragile. Option number B, they are heavy and burdensome. Again, not they are heavy, yes, but they're not a burden. A burden is something negative, you know, like something they don't want to carry. These memories are something, they're bright, they're happy memories, so they do want to go back to those memories, so they are definitely not a burden. Option number C, they are clear and unchangeable. I would say that could be an option, potential option for our answer, because yes, they are clear and they are unchangeable as suggested by the paperweight. D, they are vague and uncertain. They're definitely not vague because from the phrases sunlight clear, repeated loads and loads of times, shows that they are not vague, they are sunlight clear, they're completely clear and they're certain, they're not uncertain. And option number E Is they trivial and insignificant? Definitely not insignificant. The whole poem is based on the speaker's memories, so they are definitely very significant, and that leaves option number C as our answer. Question 3. The comparison of the child's vocabulary to a hollow doll is an example of. So the question gives it away. We know it's going to be a comparison. So now, which language techniques are examples of comparisons? Well, we know not personification, hyperbole, or onomatopoeia. Those language techniques do not compare anything. The two are similes and metaphors, and we know similes use like or as to compare, and metaphors don't. So if we go back into the text to find the phrase where they talk about a hollow doll, so that is over here, we've got the word like a hollow doll. So we've got the like, which means it must be a simile. Question number 4. The phrase time rolls its tanks employs which literary device? So we've got time rolls its tanks, we've got the time, which is an object, it's not a real living thing, and it's rolling its tanks. Well, time can't roll anything because it's not a living thing, it doesn't have hands, it doesn't have legs, so it's got to be a personification. Number 5, what is the overall tone of the poem? So now we're looking at the overall tone. This is just after you read the poem yourself, how do you feel? So always ask yourself with any comprehension or text, how do you feel? How does the text make you feel? I don't think the poem is not very joyful. There's no happy words here, so it wouldn't be A. It's definitely nothing exciting going on and not tense. It's definitely nostalgic or reflective, and the answer is B, because again, the whole poem is about memories and looking back on the past, and that is what nostalgia means, and we're going to come across this word many times in this comprehension. Question number 6. How does the speaker's memory of their country contrast with its current state? So it's asking, how does their memory of their country contrast with the country right now? Like, what is the country right now? So let's have a think. So the options are the memory is negative. Well, the memory is definitely not negative because it's described to be sunlight clear, which means it's a happy memory, so it can't be A. Again, we know it's not vague because it's sunlight clear, so it's completely clear, it's not vague. It's definitely not harsh. I've just picked up this word here. It's not harsh because, again, sunlight clear, we're using that word again. It could be detailed as well because sunlight clear, so it could be C or D because it's saying it's bright and idealized or detailed. Now let's look at the second sentence to choose our answer. The current state is bleak and troubled, and the current state is general. If we go back into the poem, let's have a look at what the current state of her city or country is. So they've got, my city hides behind me, it's hiding, it's dark, it's accusing, it's, what else does it say? We've got the main things though, it's definitely not good. So her memories of her city are good. We've got here, the worst news I receive, it may be at war, sick with tyrants. So her country is at war, it's sick with tyrants, it's accusing, it's hidden, it's dark. So we've got all of these negative connotations. So definitely the current state is bleak and troubled. So that would mean our answer is C. What is the significance of the phrase tastes of sunlight? Again, we've got the sunlight. Sunlight means warmth, goodness, positivity, happiness. So that would leave us with the answer B. The memory isn't fading, it's not painful, and it's not bitter either. Number 8, what does the speaker mean by I have no passport, there's no way back at all? So it's not literal, the speaker hasn't lost their passport, it's that they can't return to their country is war-ridden, there's war going on, she can't go back to her country, so she physically cannot return to her country. So that would be the answer. She obviously wants to return, so it can't be C, and they haven't forgotten because their memories are sunlight clear, and they aren't banned from travelling, so this was just using the process of elimination. Number 9. How does the poet depict the speaker's connection to their city in the present? Again, they are still very much connected to their city. Their memories are sunlight clear, so they are definitely not forgotten. They are not fading and irrelevant, and they're not haunting and accusing, because haunting has connotations of fear, and there wasn't really any fear going on in the poem there. So it's out of B or E. We've got that word nostalgic again, so E would be our answer. Nostalgia and nostalgic are the perfect words to describe a poem like this, where you're looking back on past memories. So she's looking back. The memories aren't stronger and vibrant. I wouldn't say vibrant. Vibrant is giving connotations of colour and stuff. There was no colour in the poem. She wasn't very happy. There was more of a nostalgic tone. Question number 10. What is suggested by the phrase, they accuse me of being dark in their free city? So we've got, they accuse me of being dark in their free city. So her old city, she's being accused of being there. She's not welcome there. She's not being treated nicely. It's all negative in the city she's currently living in, the one she's fled to. So if we think about it, we have refugees all around the world. If refugees flee from a city to go to live somewhere else, they want to be welcomed, they want to be treated nicely, they want to be comfortable, they want it to feel like home. However, she's being accused of being dark in their free city. So it wouldn't be A, that's too literal. And obviously we know the speaker's not a criminal, and they're not hiding a secret, so the answer is D, the speaker's not welcome in their new city. The speaker's being accused in their city. It's not that she brings negativity, it's not the speaker's fault. You can see this where it says they accuse me. It's not that she's done something wrong, it's just her existence is wrong in this context of the poem. Number 11. Why does the poet describe the city as docile as paper? So again, this just emphasizes its fragility and submissiveness. And this is because we've got the use of the word paper here, and paper is something very fragile and delicate. It can rip really easily, it can break really easily, etc., etc. So again, that's fragility, and docile means obedience. So those two words, fragility and submissiveness, are direct synonyms. Fragility is a synonym of paper, and submissiveness of docile. Number 12. What effect does the use of direct speech have in the poem? So we've got direct speech. We can see that they've used pronouns such as they and me. That definitely just makes the moment more intimate and personal. It doesn't distance the reader, and it doesn't create a formal tone. And poems don't introduce characters because they're not stories. If any phrase has personal pronouns such as they accuse me, it's trying to make it more personal by using these personal pronouns. Number 13. What can be inferred about the speaker's feelings towards their homeland by the end of the poem? So by the end of the poem, how does the speaker feel towards their homeland? So again, I think we all know the answer to this, which is D, nostalgia and longing. It's always that nostalgia. The main tone of the poem is definitely very nostalgic, looking back on their memories. Again, there's no anger in the poem, there's no confusion or uncertainty, and there's no indifference or detachment. She's very much still attached to her home city. And no admiration, she's not admiring her city either. It's more just longing to be back in her city and be back in her home with her family. That's what the speaker wants. So it's definitely nostalgia and longing. Okay, spelling, punctuation, and best word. In these sentences, there are some spelling mistakes. On each numbered line, there is one mistake or no mistake. Find the group of words with the mistake in it and mark its letter on the answer sheet. Obviously, there's no answer sheet here. If there is no mistake, mark E. So let's go through the first one. With these types of questions, my advice would be just read it through. If something sounds wrong, that would be your answer. With lots of effort and ambition, he managed to achieve all his goals. So for the first one, the answer is C. The achieve is spelt wrong. It should be I before E. So remember the phrase I before E, except after C. The I always goes before E in any word unless it's after C. So in this case, it should be ACHIEVE. During adolescence, a lot of teenagers may develop new interests and hobbies. So the spelling mistake here is adolescence. Answer A. Adolescence. Adolescence has been spelled wrong. There should be a C between the S and the E in the sense section. It's not just sense, there's a SC. The ice cream shop is definitely the best place to get delicious treats in town. Answer is B. It's definitely B. Definitely is spelt wrong. Just think about the way you say it. You don't say definitely, you say definitely. So that A in the middle should be an I. If I just cross that out and put an I there. Number 17, I checked my schedule to see what time my rugby training starts tomorrow. Again, the answer is B. It's not even schedule, there's no C there, it's just schedule. So if you read that properly, then you would have noticed there's no C, there should be a C there. Sorry, there you go. The next question, being able to explore the world is a privilege that not everyone gets to experience. The answer is C, and privilege has been spelt wrong. Again, thinking about the way you say it, you don't say privilege, you say privilege or privilege. So that would, again, the E should be an I. Right, capital letters and punctuation. So there's some punctuation mistakes. Same rules, pick one option, and if there's nothing, the answer goes to E. So we've got Sidcup Leisure Centre is so busy, particularly during the summer holidays. First thing I'd notice is that the Sidcup has a capital letter, which is good, it's meant to, but the Leisure Centre should not. Leisure Centre is not a proper noun, the Sidcup is a proper noun, therefore the L should not be capital. So the answer is A. The girl's mother could tell that she didn't enjoy playing football. Here, I'm just having a look at all the apostrophes, making sure they're all there, making sure there's capital letters and a full stop at the end. There are no mistakes in this question. Ruby loved the summer. It was her favourite season as it was sunny and warm. Again, I'm looking for all these capital letters, commas and full stops. We've got a capital letter for summer. Summer does not need a capital letter. It's not a proper noun, so the answer is B. Let's go to the beach, shouted Lewis cheerfully. He grabbed Katie's hand. Again, looking for these apostrophes. Let's should have an apostrophe between the T and the S. If I show you, it should be an apostrophe going there because it's short for let us go to the beach. That was the mistake there. And the last question, there are so many chocolate bar brands such as Cadbury, Galaxy and Aero. The common mistake here, there should be no comma if there is an and. It should just be Cadbury, comma, Galaxy and Aero. There should be no comma after Galaxy. So the answer is D. Okay. Best word. So in this passage, you have to choose the best word or group of words to complete each numbered line so that it makes sense and is written in correct English. And we need to choose the best answer, marking its letter on our answer sheet. So for these questions, just read through the sentence and substitute in each word until it sounds right. So we've got around November, the wind becomes stronger, something bins and debris into the street. So we know something's being blown into the street. So around November, the wind becomes stronger, blew bins and debris into the street. It's not A because we're going into past tense. It's not blew. We've got blowed again. It's not anything in past tense. We know that. Around November, the wind becomes stronger, blows winds. Blows is personal. It's saying something blows something. There is no person here, so it can't be C, and it can't be E because, again, there's no it. So the answer would be D. And just to check our answer, we'll reread the sentence. Around November, the wind becomes stronger, blowing bins and debris into the street. That sounds perfect. Number 25. The leaves also get pushed around, landing onto drains causing flooding. It could be onto drains causing flooding, but drains, if you think about it, drains on the floor. So if something's landing on the drain, they're actually landing on top of the drain. So C would be the best choice here. It's not beneath, it's not above, and it's not into, definitely not. Number 26. The temperature also starts to drop, causing pipes to something, which can break them. So again, there's no past tense in any of this, so we can eliminate B and C because there's no past tense. And it's not future, it's not in the future, so it's not be freezing. So we're left with D. Let's just check that. The temperature also starts to drop, causing pipes to freeze, which can break them. Perfect. But sometimes winter is nice, especially if snow is definitely falling. If snow is falling, snow is snowing, doesn't make sense. Snow is fell, definitely doesn't make sense. Snow is snowed, doesn't make sense. And snow is here, doesn't make sense either. We don't say, oh, snow is here, we say snow is falling. Number 28, you can go something, make snowmen, have snowball fights, or make snow angels. It's amazing. So we've got sledging, sledges, sledged, or have sledging, or sunbathing. Well, we know it's snowing, so there's no sunbathing going on. And so the options are, well, we know it's not going to be past tense, so we can cross out these. And have sledging just doesn't make sense. We're going to cross that out. So it's either sledging or sledges. You can go sledges, doesn't make sense, so it has to be you can go sledging. Okay, so moving on to maths. We've got complete the following sequence. So we need to work out what the pattern is in this sequence. So what is it going up in? So what do you do to 1 to get to 4? What do you have to add? Well, we know to get to 4, we have to add 3. So let's just write add 3 there. Let's see, what do we have to do to 4 to get to 9? We know we have to add 5. If you just count on your fingers, then you will find that this is right. And what do we do to 9 to get to 16? We simply add 7. So let's have a look at what the pattern is. We're going 3, 5, and then 7. And if you notice, these are our odd numbers. So what's the next odd number after 3, 5, and 7? Is 9. So 3, 5, 7, 9, which means we're going to add 9 to get our next number. And 16 plus 9 is 25, which means 25 is our answer. Number 2, calculate 0.4 times 0.4. With these questions, I always say ignore the decimal and the decimal point. Just do it like normal. We've got 4 times 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. Then, obviously, rub out your crossing out. So you've got the 0 point, and now you know it's a decimal. Add the number of decimal places there are in total. So we've got one dp there and 1 dp there. That makes 2 in total. So therefore, it's going to be 0.16. There's going to be 2 decimal places after the decimal point, and that is C. Calculate the following. 45 divided by 0.5. Again, ignore the decimal point. Do 45 divided by 5. And we know 45 divided by 5 is 9. Now we know it's actually 0.5. It's 10 times smaller than 5 itself. So we need to make our answer 10 times bigger, which is 90. Number 4. The distance from London to Birmingham is 189.5 kilometres. Can't convert the distance to metres. So to go from kilometres, you just write this down, to metres, we just times by 1,000. So if you just remember this for the future, it's really important. All you do is multiply by 1,000 to make it bigger. Well, not bigger, but it has to be bigger for meters. So 189.5 times by 1,000. All we're going to do is move our decimal point 3 times to the right. So let me rewrite it up here. So we're just going to go, let me get my pen, we're just going to go 1, 2, 3. So we're going to move it 3 times to the right. And then you'll find, let's move the point, and fill in all of those placeholders with zeros. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So we're going to find that it's going to have 2 extra zeros on the end. That doesn't have any zeros, that only has 1. That has 3 and that has 4, so it's got to be C. Number 5. A box contains 2 blue pencils, 3 green pencils, and 4 red pencils. If I pick a pencil from the box at random, what is the probability that I will pick out a green one? So we need to turn this into a fraction. So first, to work out the denominator, our denominator is the total number of pencils. So we've got 2 plus 3 plus 4, which is 9. And then the top number is what we want, and we want the green one. So how many green there are? There are 3. So we've got, our answer is 3/9, and we always simplify, and that will give us 1/3. If you simplify it, if you divide the top and bottom by 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Number 6. In 1970, £1 was worth the same as £2.50. How many pounds was $1,000 worth? So £1 was worth £2.50. So we're just going to write it in kind of like a ratio. So £1 to $2.50. Sorry. How many pounds is $1,000? So I'm going to write 1,000 here, and we want to know what you do to $2.50 to get to 1,000. Well, we know to get from 250 to 1,000, we times it by 4, which means to get from £2 or $2.50, we have to times by 400. So whatever we do to this side, we do to this side. So 1 times 400 would just be 400, and that's A. A program starts at 9:15 p.m. and ends at 11:06 p.m. How many minutes did it last? So let's count in hours. So we've got 9:15. Let me use this. 9:15 to 10:15. And then we'll go to 11 o'clock and then add 6 minutes at the end. So what do you do to 9:15 to 10:15? You add 60 minutes, because that's exactly an hour. And what do you do to 10:15 to get to 11? You add 45 minutes. So I've picked numbers which are easy, 60 and 45. Now if we add 60 and 45 together, we get 105 minutes. That's 105 minutes so far. And we've got an extra 6 because it's 11:06, and 105 plus 6 is 111. 111. Number 8. What is the name of the special quadrilateral that has 4 lines of symmetry or mirror lines? And that is a square. If you ever come across a question where it's like, what has 4 lines of symmetry? Always a square, because squares, each side of a square, are all the same. So they're going to have 4 lines of symmetry. A right-angled triangle has an angle of 55. What is the size of the smallest angle in the triangle? Well, it doesn't matter which angle it is, but if I annotate the triangle, they're telling us this is 55. We know that this square here means it's a right angle, and right-angled triangles have an angle size of 90 degrees. So if we do 90 degrees plus 55 degrees, you guys will do your column addition, we get 145 degrees in total. And then to work out the size of the smallest angle, we know angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if we do 180 minus 145, that gives us an answer of 35 degrees. So our answer is 35. And to check your answer, add up all your angles. So this one's 35, let me write that here. This one's 55, and that one's 90. If we just try that out, 35 plus 55 plus 90, that is 180 degrees. So if you're ever unsure, make sure you check your answers.
Question 10. So, Freya puts casserole in the oven at 1140. It needs 1 hour and 45 minutes to cook. At what time will it be cooked? So how I would do this is I would add on 1 hour to 1140. That gets us to 12:40 PM, which is the afternoon. And then I still got 45 minutes to add on. So I'm going to first add on another 20 minutes, because that gets us to 1 o'clock. And then I add the remaining 25 minutes, which will get us to 1:25 PM, which is option E. And just as you know, 13 means 1 on the 24-hour clock.
Chi is facing northeast. In which direction will he be facing if he turns clockwise through 3 right angles? So we know that our compass points, let me draw it on the side here, are like this. We've got, let me choose a different colour. We've got, these are our compass points. There's 8 of them. I'm not going to write them all out, but we've got north up here, east up here, south at the bottom, and west up here. I appreciate my north kind of looks like a W. I'll change that. So northeast, southwest. He is facing northeast, which means he is over here. Let's change my colour. So he is over here. He's going to turn clockwise through 3 right angles. So on compass points, a right angle is turning through 2 sections, like this. Each section is 45 degrees. So one right angle would be to southeast. Another one would be to southwest here. And the third one will be to northwest here. So our answer is D. In a sale, prices are reduced by 15%. What is the sale price of a hoodie that originally cost £30? This question, all we need to do is 15% of 30, and to do that we're just going to split our 15% up into numbers we can manage. So let's find 10% of 30 first, and 10% of 30, just do 30 divided by 10 to get 3, and then 5% of 30 would just be half of 3, which is 1.5. Or £1.50, but we'll leave it with 1.5. And then all we do, because it's 15%, we just need to add it together. So therefore 15% equals 3 plus 1.5, and that makes 4.5 or £4.50. And because the prices are reduced by 15%, we need to do 30 subtract £4.50. We need to do 30 subtract £4.50, and that gives us £25.50, making our answer C. Number 13. For how many minutes was K in the lead? Oh, sorry, I didn't read out the question. Oh, yeah, that is the question. For how many minutes was K in the lead? So we've got K is the black line and Maria is the dotted line. So let's have a look. All we need to do is look at this graph. Let's just zoom in so you can see it clearly. So we just need to look at for how long K was in the lead, and we can see that from how far he is travelling. So we've got the distance in meters here. They're travelling the same amount, and we've got the time on the bottom. So all we need to do is look at where K is travelling faster than Maria, and we can see that along here where his line is much steeper, which means he's travelling faster and his distance is covered is also faster. And we can see that happens between 2 minutes and 5 minutes, and that means it's 3 minutes because 2 to get to 5 is 3. Change 0.72 to a fraction, leaving your answer in its simplest form. But we know if we're changing a decimal to a fraction, all we need to do is put it over 100. So we get 72 over 100, but of course we need to simplify it. I would say simplify both sides by, or divide both sides by 2 to begin with. So 72 divided by 2 is 36. and 100 divided by 2 is 50. We can go even more than that. We can go more than that. Let's divide it by 2 again. So got 36 divided by 2 is 18, and then 50 divided by 2 is 25. And we can't go any more than that, leaving our answer as D. Susan is making a necklace of beads using red and yellow beads in the ratio 2 to 3. She has 56 red beads altogether, and how many yellow beads will she need? Well, so she's got red and yellow beads in the ratio 2 to 3. So let me write that out. And this is red and this is yellow, just remembering whatever the question says first is the first number in the ratio, because she's mentioned red first, therefore the 2 is red. She has 56 red beads altogether, so I'm going to write 56 underneath the red beads section, and I'm going to make a little table like so. And we're just going to work out what she does to 2 to get to 56. So what do you multiply by 2 to get to 56? And that would be, you multiply by 28. And remember, copycat, whatever you do to this side, you do to the other side. So if we do 3 times 28 as well to work out the ratio the yellow beads are in, so 3 times 28 is 84 beads, and our answer is A. Okay, so the next question, what percentage of this shape is shaded? Let's write this as a fraction first, it will make it much easier. So we've got 3 squares which are shaded out of 5. So bottom numbers are total, we've got 3 squares that are shaded out of 5. Now we just need to turn this into a percentage, so I would say let's make the denominator 100, so it's really easy for us to see. What do we do to 5 to get to 100? Well, we multiply by 20, so 3 times 20 is 60. And then all we do is ignore the bottom, therefore it's 60%. Let me zoom out so you can see that. Yep. Okay, number 17, find the perimeter of this rectangle. So perimeter is just adding up all of the lengths of each side. So all we need to do is 1.8 plus 1.8, remembering there's another 1.8 on this side, and 4.65 plus 4.65, remembering there's another 4.65 on the other side, and then you should get 12.9 meters, and that is D. And then calculate the area, remembering for area it's just the length times the width, or the length times the height, whatever you want to call it. So that would be 12 times 8, which is 96. Number 19, 30% of 120. I always like to find 10% first. So 10% of 120 divided by 10 would be 12. And therefore 30% would be multiplying that by 3, which is 36. So 30% of 120 is 36. Number 20, calculate the angle marked with the letter A. Again, we've got our rule, angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So if we do 180, subtract 44, we should get 136, which is the answer. How many lines of symmetry does a rectangle have? Well, a rectangle looks like, let's see if I can get a rectangle up. No, I can't. Let's have a look. No. So a rectangle, I'm sure you all know what a rectangle looks like, kind of like this. We know there's only going to be 2 lines of symmetry, down this way and down that way, because 2 lengths of a rectangle are different to the other 2 lengths. Therefore, it's only going to have 2. It won't have 4 lines of symmetry like a square because all the sides aren't the same. What is the mode of Mediha's 6 scores? So again, mode is the most frequent score. So in 6 of her end of term tests, each out of 50, she scores 48, 37, 40, 48, 36 and 31. I've just skipped all the wordy bits. I've just gone straight for the numbers. And we want to work out the most common one. So which one is mentioned the most? And we can see that that is 48. It's the only one mentioned twice. Number 23. Calculate her mean average score. So mean is when you add all of them up together, divide them by how many. So we're just going to do 48 plus 37 plus 40 for English, 48 for chemistry, and 36 for biology, and 31 for geography. And we're going to divide them by how many there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that divided by 6 gives you an answer of 40. And that's not an option here, but the option number E was a mistake. That should be 40. Okay, number 24. Pens cost 35p each. How much money will a box of 25 pens cost? So a pen costs 35 pence. How much money will 25 pence cost? So we just need to do 35 times 25 gives you 875, but it's not 875 pounds because it's in pence. It's 35p. So we're just going to divide that by 100, and that gives you £8.75. How many prime numbers are there between 20 and 30? So our prime numbers are numbers which can only be divisible by 1 and itself. So all we need to do is go through all of our options. So we know 20 is not a prime number because it can be divided by 2. So we will just go up in the order. So 21, no, because we know that's in the 7 times tables and in the 3 times tables. 22, no, that's in the 11 times tables. 23, yes, it's not in any times tables, but the 1 times tables, so that's 1, so we'll just keep a tally here. 24, no, that's in the 6 and the 4s and the 8s and the 3s. 25, that's in the 5 times tables. 26 is in the 2 times tables, 2 times 13. 27 is in the 9 and 3 times tables. 28 is in the 8 times tables. 29, let's just check. 29 is not in any times tables but the 1 times tables. So that's another one. So therefore the answer is C for 2. Okay, the supermarket had a sale on their bottles of lemonade. Instead of selling them for 80p per bottle, they sold them for 55p per bottle. They sold 200 bottles of lemonade in a week. How much less did they take by selling at the lower price? So, they had a sale, and instead of selling them for 80p, they sold them for 55p. They sold 200 bottles in a week. So let's work out the total cost. So they sold them for 55 and they sold 200. So we just need to do 200 times 55, and that gives us 200 times 55 gives us 11,000, which is £110. So let me write it like that. £110. How much less did they make by selling at the lower price? So let's have a look at what they would actually gain if they sold them for 80p. So let's do 200 times 80. 200 times 80 is £160. So now we just need to work out the difference. So we just need to do 160 minus 110, which is 40, I believe. No, it's 50, sorry. My bad, 50. So that gives us an answer A. What number is halfway between -3 and 8? So I always say draw a number line and have 0 as your midpoint. And we have -3 on this side and 8 on the other side. So I always say, what do you have to do to -3 to get to 0? You have to add 3. And then what do you do to 8? You have to do the same thing. So if you've added 3 here, if you just subtract 3, 8 subtract 3 is 5. So there, let's just put a 5 here. So here on the number line is 5 if you subtract 3. So now we've subtracted it in equal amounts. We can just keep going until we reach a midpoint. So if I add another one, you get to 1. If I subtract another one, you get to 4. If I add another one here, you get 2. Subtract another one, you get 3. So we've reached the midpoint. It has to be between 2 and 3, and the number between 2 and 3 is 2.5. Because they each have an equal amount of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. They each have 5.5 on either side. Grace plants a row of daffodils. There is a gap of 1.1 meters between each daffodil, and the row begins and ends with a daffodil. She has 8. How long is the row of daffodils? So we've got a daffodil here at the beginning and a daffodil at the end. So that's 2 daffodils gone, which means there's 6 left. So in the middle we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in between all of these daffodils there is a distance of 1.1 meters. So in each gap there's 1.1. I'm not going to write all of it out, you get the gist. 1.1. So we've got how many, let's just count how many gaps we have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gaps. So we need to do 7 times 1.1, which is 7.7 meters, which is B. 29. What is the smallest number that 3, 4, and 10 all go into? So what number is in the 3 times tables and the 4 times tables and the 10 times tables? So let's have a look at the options. Here's just the process of elimination. 12 is not in the 10 times tables. 24 is not in the 10 times tables. 16 isn't in the 10 times tables. 20 is not in the 3 times tables, so it's got to be E. What fraction of the pupils are boys who walk to school? So we've got a little table here. It hasn't been completely filled out, and that's what we need to do. So we know the total is 23, and we know the total of girls is 11. So if we do 23 minus 11, we should get 12. So I'll write that down here. 23 subtract 11 equals 12. So 12, make it smaller. 12 goes in our box here. So now we know the total boys is 12. We can work out how many is left here. We can do 12 minus 8. And 12 minus 8 is 4. So that would go in there. Now we can also work out how many girls don't walk to school. We can do 11 minus 6, and that is 5. We can work out the total who don't walk, which is 5 plus 8. So 5 plus 8 is 13. Let's just check that. Yep, 13. And then the total of people who walk is 6 plus 4, which is 10. Right, so we've filled out our table now. So what fraction of the pupils are boys who walk to school? So the total number of pupils are 23, so that's going to be our denominator. And how many boys walk to school? We've got 4. So it's going to be 4 over 23, which is B. Okay. I thought of a number, halved it, and then subtracted 9. I got an answer of 12. What was my original number? So we're just going to do the inverse and work backwards. So they're thinking of a number, they're halving it, and then subtracting 9. So let's just go from 12, so their answer is 12, so they've subtracted 9, so we're going to do the inverse, which is adding 9, so 12 plus 9 is 21. Then they halved it, so we're going to do the opposite, we're going to double it. Double 21 is 42, and that would leave us with the answer 42, so we just do the inverse. Forzan went shopping with £100 in his wallet. He spent 10% on a book and 20% on a DVD. How much money did he have left? So he's got £100. That's a nice number. We can do, let's make it bigger. We can just do 10% of 100, and that gives us £10. So he spent £10 on a book, and then he spent 20% of the rest on a DVD. So if he spent £10 on a book, that means there's £90 left. So we're going to do 20% of 90 instead. And 20% of 90 is 18. So he spent £10 plus £18 altogether, which is £28. So to work out how much money he has left, we just do 100 minus 28. And 100 minus 28 is £72, and that is our answer. Okay. Abdul is making some snacks for a party. He cuts 1.2 kilograms of cheese into a number of 30 gram pieces. How many pieces does he have? So he cuts 1.2 kilograms of cheese into 30. So we need to convert our kilograms into grams. So to go from kilograms to grams, we times by 1,000. So 1.2 kilograms is equal to 1,200 grams. Now we know that's how much he has in total, and he cuts it into 30 grams. So we just need to do 1,200 divided by 30. You could do 12 divided by 3, which is 4, and then add a 0 to get 40, not 440, 40. And that is how many pieces of cheese he had. My flask holds 480 millilitres when it is 1/4 empty. How much does it hold when it is 1/4 full? So, if a flask is 1/4 empty, that means 3/4 are full, because 3/4 plus 1/4 makes 4/4, a whole. So that means 3/4 is full. So when 3/4 is full, it holds 480. How much does it hold when it is only 1/4 full? So when it is only 1/4 full, how much does it hold? Well, if we know 3/4 holds 480, we can just divide it by 3 to work out how much 1/4 holds, and 480 divided by 3 is 160, so it's going to be B. I set off with a £10 note to buy a book costing £4.95 and a cake costing £1.30 and a new pen. I got £2.25 change, and how much did the pen cost? So first let's look at how much they spent. They spent £4.95 on the cake, so we can do £4.95 plus £1.30 for the pen, and that gives us £4.95 plus £1.30 gives us £6.25. Now let's do £10, which is the total, minus £6.25. So 10 minus £6.25 makes £3.75. So we know that's how much money he has left, but he got £2.25 change. So if we do £3.75 minus £2.25, so £3.75 minus £2.25, we are left with £1.50, which means that is how much the pen cost. Okay, so moving on to verbal reasoning, inserting a letter. Okay, so with this type of question, you're given 2 sets of words, and the last letter of the first word and the first letter of the second word are blank, and you have to find one letter which completes the first and begins the second. So question number 1, we've got our options N, T, D, S or W, which is really good because all we have to do is substitute in these letters and see which one makes a word. So we've got N, let's try N, Thren and Nagan. If I put an N there, that does not work. None of those are words. We've got Fret and Tagan. Those aren't words either. Let's try D, Fred and Dagan. Those aren't words either. S, if we put an S there, you'd get Fress and Sagan. Those aren't words. And last one is W. If we put a W there, we get through and wagon. And just to triple check, floor and worth, and that leaves our answer is W. So this one is mainly just process of eliminating. Okay, so the next one, same process. We've got store and enid. That's not a word. W wouldn't work with store. K wouldn't. K. Let's try K. We've got stalk. If we put a K there, stalk and need. Break and kings. Yes, those make words. So C would be our answer. Boiled. If we try with a D, and daffle. Daffle isn't a word. W wouldn't work with it. S wouldn't work. boiler and raffle, that works, yeah. Carver and ringed, maybe saying it wrong, it's carver and ringed, so yes, those are words, so the answer is D. Word analogies. In the following, you must choose 2 words, one from each group in brackets, to complete the sentence.
Question 4. So you want to find a relationship between king and one of these words. So king lives in a palace, but does a boxer live in any of these? No, so that's not going to work. A king is rich, and a boxer can be famous. So you could potentially get the answer. So if you get BX, because both of them, a king is rich and a boxer is famous, would work as a relationship. The primary answer is crown, so the king wears a crown and the boxer wears a belt, CY. So if you chose either CY or BX, you'll get the answer for this question.
Care is to neglect, sorrow, or child, as rejoice is to protect, life, laugh, or mourn. So again, I'm thinking this is opposite, so care would be to neglect. That's the opposite. So the opposite of care is to neglect someone or something, whereas the opposite to rejoice is to mourn. So we've got the perfect options here. Spain is to beach, sun, or euro, as America is to states, hot, or dollar. Well, firstly, if we're talking about the weather, both of them are hot, so it's not going to be any of the weather ones. There's no location, so it's got to be C. So Spain is to euro and America is to dollar, which is the correct currency. So in Spain they use euros and in America they use dollars. Letter is to quota, character, or alphabet, as number is to add, note, and digit. Here I'm thinking of what you use to write a letter or what letters are. So letters use characters and numbers use digits. So those would be our 2 options. Okay, rearrange the words. So here you're given 2 words and you have to choose one letter that can be moved to make 2 new words, and you can't rearrange anything. So let's have a look. So we've got grind and host. So what letter can I move from grind and put it into host to make sure that they are still 2 different words? So this is again all just trial and error. So let's try. Let's take the D away. If we take the D away from grind, we get grin. And if we add it into host, we don't know where we're adding it yet. So let's have a little look where we can add it. So we've got the grind and host. So if we take the G away, we're left with just rind, and we can add the G onto the front of host to make ghost. So rind is like the thing on the edge of a watermelon. That's what it is if you didn't know what that was. So the answer is A. Got beard and card. So for this one, we're taking off the E to make bard, and we're going to move the E in here to make bard and cared. Always try to make sure you're leaving a vowel in the word. So for example, for number 8, for grind, don't take the I out because you're not going to be able to make a word with that. Always leave a vowel there. Take one vowel out. Always, if you're ever stuck. So we get bard and cared. So in this one we're taking the E out. Number 10, we've got brush and dyed. So this one, I think an unnecessary letter would be the R. Again, we can't take the A out because it's a vowel. If we take the R out and we put it into the next word, we know we can put it in here to make dried. So we've got bash and dried. Number 11, we've got ring and sing. If we take the W off, we just get ring, and we can put the W onto here to make swing. So ring and swing, that's the W moving. Substitution. So with this type of question, you're given a series of letters, each of which is assigned to a number, and you have to just substitute the numbers in to whatever equation you've been given. So, question 12, we've got our sum here, B times D subtract C times C, and you've got your list at the top. So what is B? Your B, let me write this in text, your B is actually, so let's always rewrite the equation. Your B is 87, and you've got 87 times D, which is 3, minus your C times C, which is 13, times 13, and that's all you have to do. So 87 times 3, you do your column multiplication is 261, and 13 times 13 is 169, and 200, and then all you have to do is subtract them. So 261 minus 169 makes 92, and that answer 92 is the letter E, and that is your answer. And that is what you do for all of them, basically. So you've got C plus D. Again, let's write it out with the numbers. So C is 86, your D is 2, and you need to subtract 26. So 86 plus 2 is 88, and then 88 minus 26 is 62. Is it 62? Let's do that again. 86 plus 2 minus 26 is 62. Yeah, it is. 62 isn't an option here. I just realised that plus sign, I thought it was a plus sign, is actually a division sign. My apologies. Let's just redo that with division. So 86 divided by 2 would give us 43. And 43 subtract 26 gives us 17, which is B. Now we know this is the division, so we've got B divided by D, so we've got 168 divided by 12, so 168 divided by 12 is 14, and then we're just going to do 14 times A, and 14 times A is 4, so 14 times 4 would be 56, and that gives our answer C. A times C times B, so A times C is minus 1, A is minus 1 and C is minus 2. So we're going to do minus 1 times by multiplied by minus 2 first. So minus 1 multiplied by minus 2 is the same as doing 1 times 2, which is 2, because the negatives cancel out, so we just get 2. And then we do 2 times B, which is 7, which makes 14. And that would be D as our answer. And the last one is A divided by D times B. So A divided by B is 36 divided by 3, which is 12, and then 12 times, A divided by D, 36 divided by 6 is 9, 6, and then 6 times B is just 18, which is C. Number relationships. So in each of the following, the numbers in the last group have to be related to each other in the same way as the numbers are in the previous groups. Find the missing numbers. So let's just have a look at the relations here. So what can we do to 6 and 7 to get to 45? All of this is again trial and error, just adding them, dividing them, multiplying them together, doing anything you can to try and make the number 47. This question I would try multiplying first. 6 times 7 is 42, and 42 plus 3 makes 45. So I would say the rule is multiply and then add 3. And we can just check if that works, and that does, because 12 times 12 is 144, plus 3 is 147. So let's just do this for the rest. So we've got 8 times 11, 88, and 88 plus 3 gives you 91, which is option C. Okay, let's work out the rule for this one now. So we've got 4 and 9, and we have to get to 3. So again, I'd start with adding this time. So 9 plus 4 is 13. 13 minus 10 is 3. Let's see if that works for the next one. So 12 plus 7 is 19. 19 minus 10 is 9. So basically, you add together and then subtract 10. So 8 plus 21 is 29, and 29 subtract 10 is 19, which is option number E. And the last one, 9 times. I would multiply them. I just do whatever my instinct is to do. I would do 9 times 4, which is 36. And just so happens 18 is half of 36, so we'd half it. Let's see if that works here. So 5 times 16. 5 times 16 is 80. 80 divided by 2 is 40, so that works too. So we're going to do, basically the rule is you multiply together, and then you halve it. So let's try that for the last one. We do 4 times 16, which is 64. Divide that by 2, you make 32, and that is B. Okay, so creating a new word. So here you're given 2 groups, and each group consists of 3 words with the second word enclosed in brackets. The second word of the second group is left blank. You are required to find the word that will fit in the brackets of the second group, and it's related to the words outside the brackets in the same way as the first group. So what you need to do here is you need to work out how they've made the word fate through the letters in the words lift and the letters in the word fade. So they could have got the F from the lift or the F from fade. It could be any of them. So we're just going to have a little look here. Again, the examples here use numbers and letters. That might be a bit easier, but in my head it just makes more sense to just use trial and error. We know that A from fate has to be from fade. There's no A in lift, so the A has to be from fade. So therefore, the second letter in our imaginary word, if I write it here, the second letter in our imaginary word has to have, so we've got a letter, so there's going to be, how many letters? 4 letters, I think. And we know that the second letter has to be from the second letter of the second word, which is R. So we know that's going to be R just because we got the A from fade. Now the T has to be from lift because, again, that's the only one with a T in it. So we know that the third letter is going to be the last letter of the first word, which is E. So if we just add E after the R, and the last letter is E in fate, and we know that E is from fade over here. So therefore they're going to get the E from bray. So it's going to be another E. And the first letter, again, this bit is a trial and error bit. So we know that F could be from here or from here. So let's try. We can either put the B from bray to make a brie, or we can put the T from bite to make tree. And tree would be our word because it's the only one that makes sense. Okay, so the next one we've got dyed, acid, and card. So they've made the word acid from the words dyed and card. So let's have a look at where they could get the A from. So the A has to be from the second letter in card. Therefore, the first letter is going to be from the second letter from oral. So that's going to be R. So we know it's going to start with R. It's not T, R. Right. Now the second letter is C. That C has to also come from card. So we know the second letter is going to be O from oral. So let's add the O there. And then we know the I from acid has to come from the second letter from the first word, which is dyed. So we know the second letter from the first word here is dame. So it's going to be A. So the third letter is going to be A. And the D comes from, it could come from dyed or card. There's quite a few Ds around here. So this is a trial and error bit. So they could have got the D from the first word here. So if they did that, they'd get the D from dame to make road. That's obviously a good word. Or they could have got the D from the end here. So if they got the E, rowy is not a word, so it's not going to be the E. And they could get the D from the card, so that's the L from oral. Roll isn't a word either, so it's going to be road. Okay, so we've got the last one, knave, main, and lime. So we've got knave, main, and lime. Knave and lime make the word main. So let's have a look where the letter M is from. It's from the third letter in lime. So the third letter in sand is N, so it's going to start with N. The A from main comes from the second letter in knave, and the second letter in the first word is E in real. The I in main comes from the lime, so the corresponding second letter in sand would be A. And the last letter is the trial and error one, that's the N, so it could come from the first word, or it could come from the second word. It could come from the first word. Actually, no, it's not trial and error. I thought it was, sorry. The N comes from knave, so this is going to be the R from real. So all I'm doing is I'm looking at where the letter comes from and just applying it, the same rules to the second set of words, and that is near, that's option C. Okay, number series. Complete each sentence by writing the correct number or numbers in the bracket. So, this is like a sort of pattern that's going on. All you need to identify is what's happening. So what do we do to 13 to get to 39? So, firstly, you add 26. So let's write that way. Adding 26. We're adding 26, but that may not work for all of it, for all of the options. Let's try. 39 plus 26 is not 117, so it can't be adding the 26. That's wrong. So let's try a different thing. Let's try 13 times 3. So 13 times 3 is 39, so we've multiplied it by 3. Let's see if that works. So 39 times 3 is 117. So we know the rule is now timesing by 3. So all we need to do is multiply 1053 by 3. So 1053 times 3 is 3159. That's option B. Let's zoom in a bit. So we've got the next one, 348. Let's see what we have to do to 348 to get to 172. So 348 subtract 172. We're subtracting 176. Subtracting 176. Let's see if that works. So 172 subtract 176 is minus 4. Sorry, yeah, that's minus 4. So that's obviously not the correct answer here. So we got minus 4, so that's obviously not going to be the answer. Let's try halving it. So if we do 348 divided by 2, we get 174. So the pattern might be divide it by 2 and then subtract 2. Let's try that. 172 divided by 2 is 86. 86 subtract 2 makes 84, so that works, and so on and on. So let's try this. 18 divided by 2 is 9, and then 9 subtract 2 is 7. That's C. And the last one, let's see what we're doing to get from 116 to get to 72. 116. So we're subtracting 44. But then we're going back up to 99. So let's have a look at what's going on. So they've subtracted 44. Let's have a look. So that doesn't work. We're going to have a little look. There might be a double pattern going on. So what that means is we're going from 116 to 99, which is subtract 17. And then we're going from 99 to 82, which is subtract another 17. However, we've got another pattern going on between there, and that is what our answer is going to be. So 72, subtract 17, again, we get 55. So 55 minus 17 is 38. So our answer would be A. Okay, compound words. So with this type of question, you are given 2 groups and each group consists of 3 words. And you are required to find 2 words, one from each group, and when they're joined together, they will form a new word. So we've got wool from this triplet and paper from this triplet, and we know wool and paper stuck together makes wallpaper, which is a word.
For question 26, you want to put both of the words into, you want to use 2 words, one from the left, one from the right, to make a new word. Here it's going to be carrot, okay, carrot.
So we've got canate, can fill, can tank, doesn't work. Fillate, fulfill, doesn't work. Full tank, doesn't work. Primate, there you go, that primate is a word. That is our answer. Be mine, be me, be self. Nope, none of those are words. Thee mine, thee me. However, thee me can be said like theme. So our answer would be theme. Okay, coding and decoding without letter partners or mirror images. So the code for badge is CCGKJ. So let's just work out what the relationship is. So what do we do to B to get to C? So we go to our alphabet. We've got B and C here. We're just adding 1. So we've got add 1. Now what do we do to A, the next letter, to get to C? So A to get to C is add 2. So that's the next thing we do. Now what do we do to get from D to G? So we go 1, 2, 3. So we're adding 3. What do we do to get from G to K? We're going 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's add 4, and so on and on. We know the pattern is going to go add 1, then add 2, then add 3, then add 4. So what is the word for BDLHJ? So we're going backwards. We're going from the code back to the word. So we need to do the inverse. So we need, instead of adding 1, we're going to subtract 1. So what is the word for BDLHJ? So we're going to start off with B, and we're going to subtract 1, and B subtract 1 is A. So we know it's going to start with A, so we can eliminate any word which doesn't start with A. Now, D is, we're going to subtract 2, so we're going to go 1, 2, so we know the second letter is B, can't eliminate any yet. L, subtract 3, we're going to go, where's L? We're going to go 1, 2, 3, it's going to be I. Now, abode does not have an I, so our answer is going to be D. The code for flip is DNGR. So let's work out what's going on. Let me just rub all of these annotations out so we have a clean alphabet line. Okay, so F to D, let's have a look. We're subtracting 2 to get from F to D, so that's the first rule. Now to go from L to N, we're going 1, 2, so we're adding 2. And then we're going from I to G, 1, 2, so we're subtracting 2. So now we see where the pattern is going. So we're subtracting 2, then we're adding 2, then we're subtracting 2, then we're adding 2. So all we have to do is work out the code for this word. There's no inverse going on because we're working out the code. So we're just going to do G subtract 2, and G subtract 2, 1, 2 is E. So we're going to, the first letter is going to be E, so it can't be any of those. Now we're going to go E plus 2, so that's 1, 2, that makes G. The next letter is going to be G, so it can't be C. And then we're going to go R minus 2. So where's R? R is here, we're going to go 1, 2, that's P. So the next letter is going to be P. It's not going to be A, so it has to be E. Okay. So word pairs, so there are 3 pairs of words, and you have to complete the third pair in the same way as the first 2 pairs. So we need to find out how these pairs have been made. So we've got the word bleeper and we've got the word peer. So we can see that the P is the third letter from the end to, and now it's been made the first letter of peer. Let's see if that works the same way. So the B in bale is made from the third letter from the end in affable. So we're going to use the same process here. The third letter from the end in derived is V. So our word is going to start with V. So we can eliminate these 2, B and D. Okay, so the next letter in peer is E, and the E could come from the 2 E's in the middle or the E at the end. That's too much trial and error. Let's go to the next 2 words. They might be a bit more of a help, and they are, because we know the A could come from the A at the beginning in affable or the A in the middle. Now, if the A comes from the beginning, therefore we have to take the D from the beginning here, and the V and D together would not make a word because Vda is not a word. That just wouldn't make a word. So we know it's not going to be the first A. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth letter A. So the fourth letter in derived is I, so we know the next letter is going to be I. Okay, so the next letter in Baal is an L, and the L has to be taken from the second to last letter, and the second to last is E here, so we know it's going to be V-I-E, so it can't be A, so either C or E, and the last letter E has to be taken from the last letter in affable here, and that is D in derived, so we've got vide here, and that is option number C. Okay. And same thing for the next two. Let's have a look. The B from the bell is the first letter, so we know the first letter is going to be S here. We can eliminate all of these. And the next letter E from bell could be from the B-E-V-E, could be from the E here or at the end. There's too many options, so we're going to go to tolerate here. The second letter is E as well, but there's less options, so it could come as the fourth one or it could come as the last one. So if we look at the fourth letter in sewerage is E as well, so it could be E. That sounds like it could make a word, and the last letter in sewerage is also an E, so it wouldn't really make a difference. Now the next letter in tolerate is A. We could use bell, but bell has two L's, and so does beveld, and that's just going to take too long working out which L goes where. So this is just much more simpler. We know the A, we take it from the third to the end. The third to the end is A here as well, so we know it's going to be C-E-A so far. And then the last letter, the R, comes from the fifth letter in our word, and the fifth letter in sewerage is R, so it's going to be seer. And that is our answer. Okay, letter relationships. So the alphabet's been written above, so that's going to help us. We need to find the letters that complete the sentence in the best way. So AL is to TS as IR is to what? I always just think, okay, what do I do to A to get to T? So let's have a look. So we've got A here, and we've got T all the way at the end. Now I could go counting how many letters I need to do to get to T, but think about it, the alphabet also continues the other way. So behind here we have a Z and a Y and an X. The alphabet's just starting again, and here we have a B, C, etc. So we're just going to take the A from here. It's going to be much easier to count our way up to T from the end. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're subtracting 7 as the first rule. And the second rule, getting from L to S. Again, let's have a look. From L to S, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're adding 7. So it's minus 7 plus 7. So all we need to do now to IR is minus 7 plus 7. So I minus 7 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's B. It's going to be B at the beginning. And the R plus 7, so we've got the R plus 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's Y, so it's going to be B, Y, and that is option number D. Same thing applies for number 34. What do we do to F to get to H? Let me just rub out all the annotations I did here. Okay, so we need to do, what was it, F to get to H. Let's just check. Yeah, F to H. So F to H was add 2. So that's our first thing. So we need to do A plus 2. A plus 2 is C. It's going to start with C. We can eliminate those two. O to get to M. O to get to M is subtract 2. So we're just going to do E subtract 2, which is C. It's going to be CC. Okay. Okay, so here all we need to do is identify the pattern in the series. So what do we do to Q to get to Q? Well, it's staying the same. Then we've got M and then M and then I and then I. So to work out the next letter that's going to come first, we've gone from, let's find Q, we've gone from Q to M to I. So what's the gap? We're going 1, 2, 3, 4. We're subtracting 4. So we're just going to do I subtract 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that starts with E, so it's not going to be any of these, leaving us with 2 options. Now we just need to work out the pattern between the second letters. So we're going to go from P to S. So P to S is just 1, 2, 3, adding 3. And then L to O is 1, 2, 3, adding another 3. And then the H to K is also adding another 3. So to work out the gap, how they've done this, so to go from Q to P, so we can see that the first letter is always 1 before the original letter. So we've got Q here, and then it's Q to P, that's 1 behind. We've got M and L here, M to L, L is just 1 behind. So if our starting letter is E, which is going to go 1 behind E, which is ED, and that's going to be option number A. And for the next question, we've got X to W to U to R to N. So let's just work out that pattern. So let me rub out my previous annotations. So if we're going from X to W, that's X to W, that's just subtracting 1. And then to go from W to U, that's subtracting 2. And then U to R, that's subtracting 3. So we're subtracting 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. So that's 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. And then, so let's just check 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. And then it's going to be 5. So if we go from N, let's subtract 5 from N. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be I over here. So we can eliminate all of them, and we're left with only one option, which is D. Okay, so NVR and spatial reasoning. So this is similarity, so we've got 2 shapes on our left which are similar in some ways, and we need to apply the same rules to work out which one from our 5 options are the most similar, the most like to the ones on the left. If we were to make a trio, add one more shape to those 2, which one would we add, which one would we choose to be the most similar? So let's have a look. So we've got these squares, and then we've got a circle with 3 squares in it. So I would say the first thing that's common is that both of them have 3 squares. So I always write the rules I find. So both have 3 squares. So always write the explanation down on the side if you're practicing. That's really, really helpful. So that means in our options, they must have 3 squares in them. So E does not have 3 squares. D does not. That is a rectangle, so that doesn't count. Nor does C, and nor does A. And there you go. We've got our answer, which is B. So it's got 3 squares. Yes, it has a hexagon in the middle of it, but the main idea is that it has 3 squares. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for the next one. So as you can see, one of the first similarity that I can see is that they both have a triangle in the middle, in the center. So we're looking for another one with a triangle in the middle. So A doesn't have a triangle, nor does C. So we've got B, D, and E left. The next thing I find is that both of them, if you count the number of sides, have quadrilaterals surrounding them on the outside. B has a 5-sided shape. Now the options are out of D and E. The last similarity, if you haven't yet eliminated all of the options, is that the middle shape has no sides. So it's circular, it's round, and it's curved. So leaving our answer to be E. D is not circular or curved. It has one circular edge, however it has one sharp edge. The next question. So again, looking for the similarities. So similarity in the next question would be they both have a strip of a rectangle going through the middle. In B, there is no rectangle in the middle. It's a slanted one. This isn't in the middle. This is not in the center either. And that's not a rectangle either. So that's you're left with A. Just a key thing here, it has to be a rectangle. Okay, looking at the next one here. So we're looking at the flags. So what's similar about these? Again, both have triangles at the bottom. All of our options have that, so we can't eliminate any just yet. And they have 4 squares, 2 which are white and 2 which are black. Another thing I would also point out is that the triangles that they have at the bottom, if we look carefully, are a specific type of triangle. They are scalene triangles. So the triangles have different sides. So it's not going to be C, because C has an equilateral triangle on it. The rest, though, however, are still valid options. The other thing is that you can notice is that the triangle is pointing in the direction of the flag. So the long side of the triangle is always in the direction of the flag. That doesn't apply for B, where this triangle is pointing that way and the flag is pointing that way. But the rest of them do obey that rule, so that's fine. And the other thing that I would just point out is that when the flag is pointing to the right, like this one here, the two black squares are also, they're in the other direction, so the diagonal is closer to the left. So there's a black square on the top left corner. The only one that doesn't follow this is D. So D is facing the right, but it doesn't have a black square in the top left corner. Same for this first option, is facing right. It should have a right square in the top right corner. That is not the case for E either, leaving us just with A. Now we've got another similarities just with three options to have a little look at. So what is similar about all three of these? First thing I'd say is they all have a black circle. B doesn't have a black circle, so we can eliminate that straight away. The second thing is that they all are stacked with a white square, diagonal line square, and the squares, the two circles. C doesn't follow that rule, and nor does E. Nor does E, because E's got one long one and C's got two diagonals, so we're left with A or D. And now the other thing you should notice is that the black square is always in line with the diagonal square, if you have a look where I'm circling, and that only applies for D, whereas in A the black circle is in line with the blank square rather than the diagonal square. Okay, moving on to analogy. So again, analogy is quite simple, just this square is turning into that square, apply the same rule to the question you have. So our three crosses are turning into two crosses without the line in the middle, so they're just less simple. So I would assume that this is going to go the other way around, because we're starting off with the simple crosses and it's going to turn into the more complicated crosses. So let's have a think. So it's going to do the reverse. So if they're taking away the thickness and turning them vertical, then here they're going to turn them horizontal. So if they're going to turn them horizontal, the x's are going to look like this. So it can't be C and can't be B either. So our options are A, D, and E. Secondly, just another thing, all of this crosses should have a line going through them. A's crosses don't follow that rule. And secondly, lastly, the number of crosses has to change. E's number of crosses stay the same, so it has to be D. Okay, next one. So let's have a look at what's happening here. We've got the letters F, T, L, and J. And all that's happening is they're moving around anti-clockwise. So anti-clockwise, the physical letters are turning anti-clockwise as well. So I'm assuming the same is going to happen in this question. So if we're moving it anti-clockwise, we're going to have the W down here, the P or whatever is going to be here, the K is going to be up here, and the 6 is going to be turned around that way, and the question which looks like that is C, which is the answer. And again, regarding the shape in the middle, we're going from a 4-sided shape to a 5-sided shape, so this is going to go from a 3-sided shape to a 4-sided shape. Okay, so the next question, let's have a look at what's happening here. So we've got two black squares on the sides, and they're turning into arrows. So the same thing's going to happen with the two triangles. They're going to turn into, both of them aren't going to be arrows, but the trident or whatever that is going to be going downwards in that direction. This is going upwards, so that's not going to be the answer. On the side, there's two squares or rectangles are moving to the side, so the same thing's going to happen to the triangles, and bear in mind that they're going to stay the same. They both have to be facing the same way, so these triangles are both going to be like this. They're both going to be this way in the square. So yeah, E does not follow that rule. It's going to be D, B, or A. And now we just need to work out how the trident itself is going to look. So if we look at the first analogy, the arrow faces the other way and the circle goes right back to the beginning. So same thing here, the square is going to go right back to the beginning, and that would be D. Okay, now the next question is, let's have a look at what's going on. So this little cross in the middle is going into the second layer and turning white. So therefore the pentagon is going to go into the second layer and turn white. Not pentagon, sorry, hexagon. So A does that correctly, so does B, C doesn't, and D doesn't. It's going to be either A, B, or E. The next thing that happens is that the circle goes inside, so they're switching places. So the square is going to go on the inside. So which one has a square in the middle? B doesn't. It's out of A and E now, and the outside shape remains the same. E's outside shape is not the same, so the answer is going to be A. And the last one of analogy, we have a triangle turning in, the triangle goes blank. So basically the hexagon and the triangle switch places and switch colouring. So it's doing a bit of a swap here. So the same thing is going to happen to the other shape. However, bear in mind that the grey shape turns white and the white shape turns grey. Here we have two grey shapes, therefore both grey shapes are going to turn white, and the only option where both grey shapes turn white is B. Okay, so now we've got sequences. Let's have a look. So we've got a few sequences questions. So here you just need to fill in the pattern. You just need to identify what's happening in the pattern. So we've got 4 black triangles, then 3 black triangles, then 2. So we're going to be left with 1. Now where this 1 is going to be, so firstly the triangle in this section is disappearing, then up here, so therefore the triangle here is going to disappear, so that this one is going to be left. A does not follow that rule, nor does C, so we're left with B, D, or E. Now the triangles go from outwards to inwards, outwards to inwards, so it's going to be inwards here, it's going to be facing inwards, so it's D or E. Now the squares in the middle are also reducing, we're going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to just 4, to just 2, so there is just going to be 1 left, and that is D. Okay, the next question, we're going from, straight away I can see that the number of sides are increasing. We're going from a 3-sided shape to a 4-sided shape to a 5, so it's going to be a 6-sided shape, and the only 6-sided shape is out of C or D, and it's going black, white, so it's going to be a white shape. Okay, so the next question, let's just have a look at what's happening. So the white and black triangles are switching place, so it's going white, black, so it's black triangle is going to be at the top this time, so it can't be A or C or D, leaving us with B and E. The number of lines is reducing each time, so we're going from 4 to 3 to 2, so there's going to be 1 line, and that means it's going to be B, there's only 1 line left in B.
Question 14. So the series is rotating clockwise. It's rotating this shape clockwise by 45 degrees. That means horizontal, then diagonal, then straight, right? So if we do it backwards, we should have a diagonally left to like this, basically, something that looks like C. So I'm going to cancel out the other options. And also we know that whenever it rotates, it seems to switch the black and the white shapes. So you would expect black to be up here, but then it flips, and then that means that it should be white here, right? So that's going to be option C. Also the balls also switch colour.
Okay. So the last one of sequences is, we've got some squares and lines. So we've got the squares are each getting rid of 2 lines at a time. So first it was the outside lines, then the inside lines, then the we're going to predict what comes next. I'm assuming it's going to be, so we can see with the these squares here, they've lost their outside one, so they've also lost their top one, so they're going to lose the top and bottom. So it's going to look like it's going to look like this. So these ones aren't going to be there, sorry. The bottom's going to be the same. Yes, it can't be B, it can't be C, and we're left with A, D, and E. So the bottom has to look like that, and then the top is getting rid of one of them, so there's just going to be two L's like that. So which ones have two L's which look like that? That's going to be D. Okay, so now we've got matrices. So again, matrices is kind of the same thing. We're filling in what comes next. We've got two lines here, and the square is just simply shrinking. It's becoming smaller. So we're just going to work out what the smaller version of this one would be, staying exactly the same. That would just be D. It's exactly the same, just smaller. Okay, so slightly more difficult, more shapes going on here. So we've got, again, we can see that the pattern's happening in rows now. It's going up. We've got a line, we're adding a circle, then we're adding a pentagon to make a full shape. So what do we add to this plus sign to make the end shape? Well, it's going to be the triangle. So it's going to be the plus sign with a triangle. So it's going to be D. Okay, so the next question, we've got triangles just facing in different directions, and you can see in each column there's two triangles facing up, two triangles facing up and sideways, and two triangles facing in opposite directions. So what's missing here are the two triangles facing up, and that is going to be A. Okay, so here our shape is simply flipping. It's flipping, so we've got the black on one side, now it's going on the other side. So we know the black is going to go on the other side here. However, that's not the only thing that's happening. The entire rectangle is turning upside down. So it's flipping inside out. So if we flipped our circle upside down, our black triangle would be shaded in that corner, and that is C. Okay, and now our last matrix question. So we've got a square and a hexagon, and it's just turning inside out. The square is going, the diamond I would say, is going inside, and the hexagon is coming outside. Same here, the square is going to come on the outside, and the cylinder is going to go on the inside, and the only option showing that is D. Okay, so the last one, which is codes. Not the last one, sorry, there's more, but the NVR. So let's work out what the D stands for. So always pick a letter which there's a duplicate of and work out what it stands for. So the D stands for the upwards facing pentagon. So if our pentagon is facing downwards, it's going to have a code of E, and that is what our option is. It's facing down, so we can eliminate A, B and D. It's just going to be C and E left over. Now the M stands for the shape having a black line, so the L is going to be plain blank, so it's going to be EL.
Question 22. So F and F seem to indicate a left-sided black half of the circle. G would mean right, so G. And then P, Q, R are all different, so P means that the rectangle is in the middle, top or bottom, so P would mean middle, okay, which is GP, option A.
We've got the next one, we've got TUVT. So we've got the T and the T. Let's have a look at what the T stands for. So the T and the T is similar. We've just got a circle and a triangle, which means that the T stands for there just being one shape. If there's two shapes, therefore the top must be U for two shapes. So it's going to not be B, it's not going to be C, and it's not going to be E. It's just going to be A and D. Now the G, H and I and the H stand for this type of shapes. The H in the H stands for the circles. If we've got triangles, it's going to end in G, which means it is UG. Okay, So now we've got H-I-J-K, T-U-V-U. They're all different except the two U's over here. So let's look at what the U stands for. So the U stands for there being a horizontal line going through the middle. If there's a vertical line, therefore the last letter is going to be T. So we can eliminate all of them which aren't T. Now we're just looking at the first letter. The first letter, the top one, is about where the black shaded semicircle bit is. And R1 is in the bottom right hand corner. The bottom right hand corner is I, so it's going to be IT. And the last one, we've got P, Q, R, and then P. So we've got the P and the P. The P stands for the black rectangle being on the left hand side of the circle. If the black rectangle's on the top, it's going to have a Q on it, like this one. So we're going to eliminate them. And then we've got the W, X, Y, and Z. That stands for the positioning of our circle. Our circle's at the bottom, so it's going to end in our circle at the bottom is going to end in X. However, there is no X option for us, so that is clearly not the rule. So if this happens, no worries, you just think of something else. So what about the positioning of the black shaded quarter? Our black shaded quarter is in the top right hand corner, which means it should be W, which is one of the options, which is correct. So we've got some more codes now. We're doing the same exact thing for all of them. We've got BABA, so the B could stand for it being vertical. Therefore, this is also going to start with B because ours is also vertical. Then for the second letter, we've got R, T, S, Q. They're all different. That could stand for the type of shape. So the type of shape is going to be T for the X's. So it's going to have T in the middle, leaving us with option C. Again, T, R, S, T. Our T and the T's are the same. Let's think of what this could stand for. The only similar thing between them is the black star. So if we've got a white star, what could the starting letter possibly be? And the white star here is S, so it's going to start with S. Then we've got WX, WX. So our W's what could they stand for? They could stand for the star being upright. And the X's stand for it being tilted. Our star is tilted, so it's going to have X in the middle. We can't eliminate any because our X's are the same here. Now the last letter, B, C, D, C, our two C's are the same. Again, let's have a think of why that could be. This one has a grey fill on the outside, this one has a white fill, and this one also has a white fill. So the C stands for the white fill, therefore the B stands for the grey fill. So this is going to end in B. Okay, so we've got a few more. So we've got G, F, and then E. Nothing similar there, but we know there's two L's here which are both similar. That stands for the squiggly line facing that way, the point being that way. If the squiggly line is pointing in different directions, it's going to end in M. So it can't be that, it can't be that, and it can't be that. Now the first letter, they're all different, which means it's probably the type of shape it is. Because it's an oval, it's going to begin with E. So it's going to be EM. Okay, in the last codes one, we've got 3 circles, 2 black circles, and then another 2 black circles. So the 2 F's stand for the 2 black circles. If we've got 3 black circles, it's going to start with the E for the 3 black circles here. So that's going to start with E, and that is only one option. For the reflections, we've got the mirror line here, and all you need to do is reflect the shape across the mirror line. The mirror line does change every question, so you just need to be really, really careful here. I would do one square at a time, so just zoom in on one square here. So we've got a black triangle over here, so if you were to mirror it, the black triangle would be this way. So let's look at one of the squares. So A, it does that, B does not, C does not, D does not. So we've only got A or E as our 2 options. So we've eliminated 3 of them already. Let's look at the second square. So the second square is going to look exactly the same, just underneath. Now A's is not exactly the same, so it can't be A, leaving us with E as our answer.
Next one is question 31. So if you're going to reflect left to right, you have to draw the distance between this and the mirror line. same distance on each side, and then that's where the start is going to happen of the shape, okay? Same thing here, I'm going to draw the distance, and then the shape is going to end around here. And you can immediately tell if you sort of draw in the rest of the shape here, however it looks, it's going to basically be vertical, okay? So it's not going to be option E because that's not vertical, this is horizontal, and these ones have the loops on the wrong end, right? The loop has to be facing away from the mirror line. So you're left with option B.
We've got a nice and straight mirror line here. So again, just draw it. So I would draw this going this way, and then a stalk coming out that way. And then if I was to mirror it, this would go like that. So my mirrored image would look exactly like that. Now all I need to do is find the matching one. And that does seem to be A, but we always just check the other ones just in case it's not A, because this little line here is facing the same way as here. This line should be longer, so it's not A. B looks like it could be it. It's not C. C is the same as A. This line is way too long, and E just looks very different, so the answer is B. Again, we've got our straight mirror line. We're looking for a triangle like this. So let's see, A doesn't have that, B doesn't have that, C does, D does, and E does as well. Okay, let's look at the next bit. So we've got this little cross coming off of it around here, and it's going at a diagonal downwards. So D isn't going downwards, so it's either going to be C or E. Now let's have a look. The semicircle is going to be facing inwards. E's semicircle does not face inwards, so it's not going to be E, and it's going to be C. Okay, so folding, hole punch, and unfold. So we've got a square here. You just need to imagine a piece of paper and imagine you've got a hole punch and you've hole punched all of those shapes and holes into it, and you've unfolded it. What will it look like? So you folded this paper in half. These are the punches you've made, and you're going to unfold it. When you fold things in half, it's just going to duplicate, but the opposite way. So this is just going to come up. Always draw. The triangle's going to look like that. The square's just going to look the same. And this is going to come upwards, and this is going to go thatwards. So now you just look for the option which looks like your answer. It's going to be D. So when you unfold something, it's going to be mirrored. So just pretend it's a mirror line. So all I've done is mirrored this first image.
So question 35, this is a folding question, so it's folded and then it's punched, and then you have to, when you unfold, you just reflect across the line that has been folded, okay? So if I reflect, as I was doing before, you look at the same distance across the mirror line, this one same distance, that's going to give you somewhere like this, and this one same distance as well, okay? And then you can see, if you draw that triangle in, it's going to point to the right. You can actually see only one option does that. Actually, E does it as well. But let's cancel out these other options. If you reflect this, you're also going to get a triangle that's pointing here. If you reflect the circle, you're going to get a circle at the bottom. E has an extra circle right here, so you're going to get answer option B.
This is the last one for folding. So again, we're doing the half fold. This is just going to be mirrored again. So imagine you're going to open this up, and it's going to look like that. So B doesn't do that, C doesn't, nor does D, nor does E. So it's going to be A. Okay, 2D plan views. So you're going to imagine you're a bird and you're up here and you're looking down at this. If you're looking downwards at this, you're not going to see this bottom brick. You're not going to see all of this underneath. You're not going to see all of that detail. You're just going to see the top. So I'm going to shade in what you're going to see. You're going to see all of this if you were looking at it from the top. So the yellow bits are what you're going to see, and you need to just kind of draw a plan on what this looks like. So we've got a nice strip here of 3 blocks. That's this bit here. Then you have one connected to the end. You actually have 2, but you can't see this bottom one. You can only see this one. And then you've got one next to it. Even though it is slightly lower, you can't see that. And then you've got one connected like that, and this is the image we are going for. So let's have a look. Which option looks like this? It could be rotated, it could be turned, it could be flipped, and the option which looks the most like this is option D. It's just rotated. Now this one, you need to imagine you're standing over here, standing on the side, looking at this. You're not going to see any of this behind it. I'm going to highlight what you're going to see. So you're going to see this front bit, and you're going to see this front face. That's it. That's all you're going to see. It's just going to look like option number C. Just 2 blocks on top of each other. And this one, again, you're looking at it from the top, so you're going to see an L shape. Again, I'll highlight it, so you're going to see this L shape, and you're going to see this bit. So that's all you're going to see, and that is, let's have a look, which option looks the most like that. So which one has an L shape with 2 blocks sticking out of it? Let's have a look. And that's going to be D. It might be a bit hard to visualize, but you've got the L shape there, and then the 2 blocks sticking out of it there. And then number 40, we've again looking at from the top, so all you're going to see are these 2 cubes here, then you're going to see these 2, and then you're going to see this one. That's all you're going to see. So you're looking for a little zigzag, so kind of like E, but with 1 extra brick along the top. And if you look, that's going to be A. It is turned around, but if you have a look, this is the 2 bricks at the bottom here. This is the 2 bricks above that here, and this is the 1 brick on the top there. And that's the end of this full mock 7.